Welcome to Networking RX, a podcast devoted to helping business professionals like you enhance your networking skills in order to become more proficient giving and receiving quality business referrals and improving the overall quality of your life and the lives of those around you. The Networking RX podcast is a production of AmSpirit Business Connections, an organization whose mission is to empower business success through networking.
If you look back just 2 weeks, I released an episode. It was actually episode 779. It was called, This is How to Deal with the Shortcomings of Others. And in that episode, I talked about a daily impact email that I got from Bob Berg. And in there, he talked about addressing the shortcomings of others. And that, when you see the shortcomings of others, it can certainly anger us. And really the lesson that we came away with, or that we talked about in that conversation was, one, stop and ask yourself, okay, do I have those same shortcomings? That person does a lot of interrupting. So do I. Oh. That person tells stupid dad jokes. That's really annoying. Ooh, so do I. And so stop and take a look at the other person and reflect on yourself. And, are you just as guilty? A lot of times we're annoyed at other people and we're just as complicit in doing the same sorts of things that they do. The other thing is, the second part to that is that you might not have their failings. You might look at them and say, well, yeah, they tell a lot of dad jokes. I don't tell any dad jokes. But you have other failings, and you need to remind yourself of that as well. It's that you're not perfect. Nobody's perfect. And, before we start passing judgment on other people, we need to take a hard look at ourselves and our own lives. Now, I want to follow up that conversation with a different sort of a conversation related to relationships, because we do have people in our lives who have failings, and it's very easy. At times, it can be almost comforting to look at people who have failings and just get mesmerized by, oh my gosh, I don't do that. And again, you need to remind yourself, maybe you don't, but you do other things. But that aside, if you want a better network, then you want better people in your network. You want better relationships, and you can do one of two things at that point in time. The first thing you can do is you can replace the people. You can just get other people in your life. Now, that's not always easy, right? If you're on a team of people at work where you're not the boss and you didn't hire people, it's not always easy. Even if you are the person who hired people and have brought people in, it's still not easy, because finding other people, you may end up with worse people. You don't know. So finding other people doesn't always necessarily work out. Or if you're in an organization like AmSpirit Business Connections, you're joining a chapter and the people are there, and you might not like everybody. Nobody likes everybody, or to the same degree. And it's just not easy to change out the network. But the other thing you can do is you can change the people. And what I mean by change the people, help improve the people, make the people better somehow, some way. So, whatever it might be that you see as their shortcoming, helping them along with it. However that's going to manifest itself. Now, there are some people who will say that they don't believe that people can change, that people are just kind of set. And I'm not in that camp. There have been studies on this, and there are just people out there who that's just their upbringing. That people are set, and that's who they are. And what they find is that those people experience higher levels of stress, anxiety, feel great about themselves necessarily, and it manifests itself manifests itself in physical ways as well. And again, there are studies that they have done. A lot of these have been done in the high school level, where people don't believe that other people can change. Um, I'm a firm believer that people can change. I have seen it. I like to think that I have changed over the years. Maybe not enough for some people, but I feel that I have changed over the years. But I've certainly seen it in other people, and I won't get into particulars because I don't. Um, well, it's there are it shows a not so flattering side of people. But I've seen people who have, with respect to the sales function, have just been all over. They've got sales breath. They're always got sales breath. They're always trying to close a deal, and then they start to realize that, okay, this isn't working, and they start to change, and they start to realize that, okay, I need to be others focused for this to really work. So I've seen people change that way. I've seen people change where they have become, or they started out being very condescending, um, of others, and in all honesty, they didn't realize they were in their eyes it was more joking, and other people didn't see it that way. And once they realized that other people didn't see their joking that way, they changed. So people people can change, um, and we need to help people change. Again, recognizing that we're not perfect, but you know, people can change. One of the first books, not the first books I ever got, but I went all the way through high school, college, law school, business school, and when I was done, when I graduated law school, I'm kind of like, I'm done reading books. If I got to read something for work, great, but I'm not going to read books. And then I got out in the business world. I had left the big corporate job I had, and I wasn't reading books there either. Um, and someone handed me a copy of Bringing Out the Best in People. Actually, her name was Eve Peterson. She ran the organization that I ultimately bought out. And she asked me to read it. I'm like, I don't want to read this book. Bringing Out the Best in People, Alan Loy McGinnis. Um, Full title is Bringing Out the Best in People, How to Enjoy Helping Others Excel. I was blown away. I was blown away. There's a whole chapter in there on helping other people. And that was really the impetus for me uh, to start reading again. That book was published in 1985. I think it's out of circulation now. I got a copy of it. I have the original copy that I was originally given, and then I have another copy that I bought on Amazon, and it was kind of um, it was kind of a reprint of some sort, and there was some sort of acknowledgement when I purchased it. It wasn't from the original publisher, but one of the first chapters in there is expect the best from people you lead, and he basically says that you can accept people where they're at, and if you do, you make them worse, right? So if there's somebody who's consistently interrupting, consistently condescending, consistently whatever, fill in the blank for whatever sort of behavior just rubs you the wrong way. Um, if you think they are set there, you're really making them worse. You're just setting them up just to have that behavior compound and compound and compound. But if you believe that there can be something more there, that they're better than that, in time you make them better because you have the ability at that point to start to nudge them along to be the person that they can become. Now, how you do that is certainly going to, there's an infinite number of answers because infinite number of people out there, an infinite number of circumstances. But once you have a relationship with somebody, sitting down with them and having that conversation one-on-one and just saying, hey, this is something I see. It may be just me, but this is something I see, and I think that this might be helpful for you. Uh, my my kids help me all the time because our kids are a bridge to really another culture or an evolution of the culture that we're in. And my kids are way more tolerant than I was growing up. I wasn't Archie Bunker or anything like that, but it's just, I had a different upbringing than they did. I grew up in a rural community. It was different. Um, and I might say something around them, and you know, they'll be a little more terse with me because they're my kids, and they'll always be my kids, and they know that. But they'll kind of set me straight on things, and it gives me an opportunity to reflect and improve. And you know, other people along the way have done those sorts of things for me. I remember a decision early on when I was starting AmSpirit Business Connections. I was transitioning it from what was Network Professionals to AmSpirit Business Connections, and we had a few hundred members. And I made the decision early on that I wasn't going to buy the old people, the people who were already in the organization, a new name badge. Just too much money. Just didn't want to spend the money. I'd spent all this other money, and I decided not to spend the money. And I was kind of just digging my heels in on that. And the more people pushed, the more I just resisted, to be honest. And there was a director in the organization, David Grow. Many people who are in the organization know him. He called me and in a very polite one-on-one conversation said, just, I know where you're coming from. I get it. You've spent a ton of money buying this, a ton of money building a website, a ton of money doing this and this and this. I want you to just think a little bit about spending a little extra money and getting everybody a new name badge, what that would do. And in a half-hour conversation, he totally had me changed. You know what? That's the smartest thing for me to do. To spend how many thousands of dollars. I mean, it wasn't tens of thousands of dollars. It may have been $3,000 to $5,000. I don't know. It's not nothing, but it wasn't the end of the world either. But that just underscores that people can change, and it starts by having a relationship with people. It starts by believing that you can change people. And it starts by really wanting the best for people. Back to Alan Lloyd McGinnis's book, bringing out the best in people. So as you move about, people have shortcomings, right? I've got shortcomings. I know I do. I don't want to hear about them. I will, but I don't want to hear about them, right? I mean, if you know what I'm saying, they're a hard thing to hear about. But I do want to improve. So we all have shortcomings. And when you see other people with shortcomings, look to yourself and say, you know what? Maybe I have those. Maybe I don't. Maybe I've got something different. But whether I do or I don't, I want to help them improve. I can improve too. But I want to help them improve if they're part of my network and it's not something that's easy to replace. Are there people who are not open to change at all? Yeah, certainly, of course. That's a small exception, in my opinion. I have no empirical information on that, but my feeling is that's probably the stat. So look to make people better, bring out the best in people, and that's just a great way to improve your network without having to change your network at all.
Thanks for joining us on the Networking RX podcast. Please put what you've learned into action today and let us know if you have questions, comments, or ideas for future topics. You can email them to us at podcast@amspirit.com. That's AmSpirit.com. Finally, so you never miss an episode, be sure to subscribe to the Networking RX podcast through iTunes, Overcast, or however you receive your podcasts. Now get out and network with someone.
The Networking RX podcast is the copyright production of AmSpirit Business Connection. All rights reserved.